My mother, the years have rushed by. It seems like only yesterday that I was just a child. The lunchbox notes.
Welcome to this special edition of the Canadian Jewish Edition. I'm your host, Gloria Valentine. This program has come about because a former guest on our show, Beverly Berdani, heard the song Pillows and Tears that introduced our program today. That song was written by my son Neil, who has been ill for 32 years. Several years ago, he asked me what I'd like him to give me for Mother's Day, and I said, why don't you write me a song? He did. And when Beverly heard it, it triggered a spark of emotions in her of such magnitude that she suggested that we do a program celebrating mothers who need to be recognized, honored, and complimented. So she brought our idea to the attention of producer Norman Evans, who agreed to work with us. We have collaborated to bring you this special on Special Mothers. Now, North Americans have set aside one Sunday in May to celebrate Mother's Day. My late father used to tell us every day should be Mother's Day. And in that spirit, we present this program about mothers today. Now, many years ago, a census taker came to my door and asked me my profession. I answered, mother. He wrote down housewife, and I followed him up the street protesting, my profession is mother. Raising children is a daunting job, a great responsibility. There's an inner strength given only to mothers. What is that inner strength that propels mothers whose burden is heavier because she has a child with a disability, a child with special needs? My youngest son, Neil, is one of those children. He had just turned 19 when he was stricken with schizophrenia, a disease of the brain that affects 1 in 100 persons worldwide, and there is no cure. That diagnosis changed my world and his life forever. How do you cope when the world you know is shattered? How do you feel when your child is suffering and you search for a way to alleviate the pain because you are his mother and that is your job? The mother lion protects her cubs against all odds. I believe there's an invisible umbilical bond between a mother and child that stays connected forever. Instinctively or God-guided, we do for our child because of that connection that nothing can break. On our show today, I want you to meet 3 exceptional mothers. We honor these women and the children with whom they have shared their lives, their pillows, and their tears. The unsung heroes of our society who have consented to tell you their unique stories in their very own words, dear viewers. Our first guest is Sharon Brooks. Sharon, you have a unique story to tell our viewers. Would you tell us how it all began that you became such a special mother?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm a special mother. I just did what a mother has to do or should do. My children, I had twins born in 1974. They were 3 months premature. There was a problem. I have my son Todd, he was born first, and then my daughter Sandy. Over the 3 months that followed, Todd almost died every single day. I never knew if he would be alive when I went to see them. I have an older son, Lauren, and what happened was that Lauren was 4, and the kids were downstairs with me, the twins, and he went by what they slept in at the time, and he screamed, and Todd jumped, and Sandy didn't move. And I knew then that Sandy was going to have a hearing problem. So over the next say 9 months, more problems developed. We knew there were going to be problems with the children because they were so small. But Todd he was a week old and he got meningitis and he was in the hospital. And then he got it 2 weeks later. Apparently they stopped the antibiotic for that and it came back. And at that point, his brain stopped growing.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I had to deal with crazy people, doctors in the elevator that didn't even know that Todd lived. And when I said he was alive, he looked at me and he said, "He's alive?" And I said, "Yes, he's alive."
And accepting this, how did you feel?
Okay, until I found out that he was blind, I had accepted most of the things. And then he was blind, and I was devastated, because there was nothing you could do with that. He went into a group home.
When did you put him in?
He was 2.5. Yeah. It was horrible for me because I tried so hard to get him into a nursery program and nobody would take him. And my only choice was...
So he's blind? Deaf? Is he deaf as well?
He's not deaf.
Oh, he can hear.
And physically disabled and developmentally disabled because his brain stopped growing. But it's amazing because he understands so much. He understands. And then there was that one time, 10 or 12 years ago.
At the age of 30?
Maybe. I don't know how old. Maybe a little younger than that. I was feeding him his lunch. And there was another lady sitting with me talking to me while I was feeding him. And he said, "Mama."
The first time.
The first time I heard him. So I called the group home. And I talked to the person in charge. And he says, "I know what you're going to tell me." He said, "Mama." I said, "Yes, why didn't you tell me when you knew that?" And I went down I was upstairs where he was eating, and then I went down to the lobby where other people were. And I was crying, and I told people what happened, and they were crying, and everybody, we were all standing there crying. And he did it for a year, and I guess he decided, I did it long enough, that's enough.
What a thrill after all those years.
Oh my God. And then I taught him how to hug, and I taught him how to shake hands, and there's so much he could learn if there was somebody willing to teach him. And there wasn't. I could have taught him so much more, but I didn't live with him anymore. He was in a group home.
And but you went often. I know you got very involved in the
Always,
group.
no matter where he was. As a matter of fact, when we left Ottawa, they had a list of people to contact. I was the only parent on the list because other parents don't come.
You were always there for him.
Always there. Parents do not come to see their children, and it's a shame.
How have your other children accepted this situation with Todd?
Lauren, all this was very difficult for my older son. First of all, he said Todd is a brother that he always wanted that he'll never have.
No, how sad.
And Sandy, because she was a twin, but people always asked her, "Are you upset that you're deaf?" And she would say, "No, I could have been like Todd." And she never, it happens that deaf people are always, they feel sorry for themselves. She never did. And Sandy, she is now teaching sign language with an interpreter to the teachers and parents of the school that her two oldest daughters go to.
If there was one word that you could use to describe yourself.
Determined, persistent, stubborn. That's me. I don't take no for an answer. I want something for my kids. There was no question about it. I'd get it, no matter what I had to do. There was no choice. I had no choice. Gloria, that was my life. People look at me now and they say things about me that I don't think is me. I don't think that I'm so wonderful. I think I did what I had to do in my life. I helped my older son too in school. You know, I cut the lawn, I shoveled the snow, I did whatever I had to do to take care of my family. And if things worked out okay, that was good for me.
Well, you're wonderful, you're unique, you're special, and thank you so much for being part of our program.
Thank you for asking me.
One story of a lifetime of love. Our next special mother of 4 is Jessica Silverman. Jessica, would you tell our viewers, what has your life been like as a mother to 4 children?
Well, I guess firstly I would say very, very interesting, very surprising, challenging, unbelievably fulfilling, really hard. 3 out of my 4 kids do have a disability. My eldest son, Aaron, who's 27, he has severe schizophrenia. And my daughters, Ziva and Sahar, twin girls, they're going to be 16, and they both have cerebral palsy.
So how have you coped with what has been given to you to deal with?
Well, I would say there were times that I didn't feel like I was coping very well. I think just being a parent is hard. But I think, you know, particularly I have felt challenged when some of the things that I've had to deal with, you know, with the kids have come on unexpectedly. Then those times were harder than others. You know, like before my daughters were born. Well, it was actually just after they were born when we realized that you know, that there had been an event that had caused something that would lead to their cerebral palsy, and with my son with schizophrenia, he started out, you know, his life very typically, and but when he turned a corner, and mental illness began to be something that was manifesting in his life, that was a really hard time. When our daughters were born and we understood what it was that we were going to be dealing with, we were devastated. I mean, as I said before, where would that come from? I mean, I just think that comes from largely, you know, the kind of thing that you hear, you know, people say all the time, you know, around you. How's the baby? Well, as long as the baby's healthy, then it, you know, it doesn't matter.
And it happens
anything,
to
you know,
somebody else. The bad things happen to
just,
other people.
you know, all of this kind of stuff. And so I was devastated. My husband was devastated. But later, when we realized how ridiculous that actually is, just the ways in which I changed as a result of my experiences with all of my kids and the way that things unfolded. One of the most powerful things I think that Hashem has given me in all of this, in terms of my faith, of how it actually brought me faith, gave me faith, is the fact that I can still see so clearly in my mind that picture of myself shortly after they were born, when I was so distressed I could hardly speak. I remember for a couple of weeks I didn't even really talk. I just was overcome with grief. But when I juxtaposed that image in my mind. There's another image that I have a little further along the road with my daughters, where I feel such gratitude for who they are as people. I just, you know, sometimes people say things like, you know, what did I do to deserve such, you know, something so terrible, you know, happened to me. I often feel that way about them. You know, how was it that I got to have these people? They're just so, I mean, I know most mothers say that about their kids, but it's different with mine. They really are.
They are a blessing in disguise, aren't they?
They're not in disguise. They're there for the whole world to see. They are not in disguise. It's so to me that the faith that really gives me is that no matter how things may seem in the moment, that I just need to wait. And sometimes, you know, we need to wait a little bit, sometimes a long time, and sometimes it's not going to be in this lifetime. But I just feel that my experience with my daughters has made me realize that no matter what happens, I believe it is only for my good, and that even if I can't see it at the moment, that it will come to me. I don't believe that, you know, God in any way is trying to punish me or, you know, make my life miserable, you know, or anything like that. I've had to stretch and grow in ways that I never would have imagined, but in ways that have only served me so well. So in that way, I think that that's been a real gift from Hashem. It's not my faith, so to speak, that got me through that, but actually gave me that.
Jessica, may you go from strength to strength. You're a remarkable woman, and I wish you continued happiness and successes with all your children. And thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thanks, Gloria.
As Jessica has told us, Hashem rules her world. I'd like you to meet Marlene Kenley, a real mother lion. Marlene, I'd like you to tell our viewers about your lovely daughter, Rachel, and your adventures with Rett Syndrome.
Okay, it's been quite an adventure. So mainly girls get Rett syndrome, but they're usually misdiagnosed for the first 3 years of their lives.
They're born with it?
They're born with it, but they develop normally. So you have a very healthy baby girl who develops healthy, keeps going, and then at some point starts losing some of her developmental skills. With Rachel, we started noticing around 10 months that she wasn't meeting any of her goals. We were lucky enough at that time to go to Zerenu. So Zerenu is a school for children with special needs. They start as young as 2 weeks old to 18 years old. And within this school, all therapies are included, as well as curriculum, other than for the infants. That's where you have all your therapies. And believe it or not, you have to be taught how to play with your child and how to bond with your child when you don't have the reaction of a normal infant. And she started doing some very strange things. So girls with Rett syndrome do this all the time, and that's really one of the signs that a girl has Rett syndrome, because they're always like this. So they're either clapping or their hands are like this. Rachel started doing some odd behavior. She started clapping. And we did some research and asked for testing again. She had been genetically tested for everything. So Rett syndrome is one of the most devastating neurological syndromes there are. The best way to describe it, if you took Parkinson's, cerebral palsy, autism, and epilepsy, and you put it in a bowl, mix it up, that's Rett syndrome. So most girls with Rett syndrome do not speak verbally. They have seizures, they have scoliosis, osteoporosis, stomach issues. It causes something that's called apraxia, which is basically when the brain doesn't give you the appropriate signals for your body to do what you need it to do. So even to look at someone who's speaking to them, and that's why they get the autistic diagnosis, because their eye contact is not good. But we use her eyes in order to communicate with her. Zarenu are the people who take care of my daughter and take care of me and my husband.
How do they do that?
Within Zarenu, when you join the infant program, or even as in some of the older classes, you get a team. And in this team, you have a social worker. You have the teachers, you have the therapists, you have the teaching assistants. And it's not like anywhere else. So they sort of hug you. And it's an okay place to have your little nervous breakdown. It's, it's very hard. You can say things there that you can't say out in the world, in the real world. People don't quite understand your life and your frustrations. Keeping a child at home with such severe issues is very difficult, and it costs a lot of money. Even putting a child into a school like Zarenu, it's $30,000 a year, plus what you have to spend at home to care for your child. And as your child gets bigger, I'm 5'2", my daughter's 4 feet tall, and I have to lift her. And it puts the parent, I'm also an older parent. I had Rachel when I was 40. So, you don't have the strength that you used to have. I have more patience, but I have a lot less physical strength. It is very difficult. It's, there's no time in my world to go into that depression, woe is me. There is no time. I have to make sure my daughter's healthy. I have to make sure she's having a good childhood. And, that at least she's smiling for 50% of her day.
But mothers have a role that a lot of the world does not recognize. The role is a very powerful one.
It is, and it's hard, but when you have a child with a severe disability, you don't realize that you're not just going to be a mother. So all your dreams in one swoop are shattered, but you don't understand that you are going to have to fight like you've never fought in your entire life. And I remember many years ago, I had a friend who had a child with Down syndrome, and I didn't quite get it. The fight, I didn't know that the government doesn't give you a lot of help, and the doctors don't quite understand everything. And
either do your friends and family.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other world. You find out who your friends are, and who your close family is. I'm very lucky. I have an incredible support system as far as family and friends, as well as I have found very good doctors, but it was very difficult.
Do you have a vision for your future? That's a collective your.
I don't, which is very rare for me. I'm a very together person as far as plans go. I don't have a vision for our future right now. we're kind of doing step by step at the moment. You know, I can tell you the next 5 years, but her future as an adult, we are in the process of trying to organize that and make plans for her, because we are older parents. So it's going to be an issue.
Marlene, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, and an
Thank
inspiration. And with a mother and a father like Rachel has, I'm sure she'll do as well as Rachel can.
Right.
Thank you very much for being on our program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
May her adventures continue to be safe and successful ones. Dear viewers, thank you for being part of this journey. I am grateful to each of our guests for letting us share her story. Thank you for letting me share mine as well with you. Neil is my miracle. He lives his life with courage and with quiet strength. We are planning a full-length documentary. If you have a special story of mothers and their children, please get in touch with us at the following address. And you can watch Pillows and Tears on YouTube. This is your host, Gloria Valentine. And until we see each other again, sei gesund and shalom.
Pillows and tears, my mother. Pillows and tears, my friend. I will always love you until the very end. The love we have is stronger than any words can show. Pillows and tears, my mother, the love I'll always know.